Finding a new job is stressful, but with Indeed, it doesn't have to be. Just fill out your Indeed profile with your skills, experience, and desired salary. The more you fill out, the better your matches will be. And hearing from hiring managers will be 2 times more likely. Relax. That's your Indeed profile sending opportunities your way. Indeed, the world can work better.
Running a business comes with a lot of what-ifs. But luckily, there's a simple answer to them. Shopify. It's the commerce platform behind millions of businesses, including Thrive Cosmetics and Momofuku, and it'll help you with everything you need. From website design and marketing to boosting sales and expanding operations, Shopify can get the job done and make your dream a reality. Turn those what-ifs into... Sign up for your $1 per month trial at shopify.com/special offer.
And supporting this podcast and at the same time getting all my episodes ad-free, then please head to my website, 3dprintingbasicspod.com. Again, that's 3dprintingbasicspod.com. There you can find all the links to support me, my affiliate links, and as a perk, you can get all my episodes ad-free if you subscribe on Patreon, Spotify, or Apple Music. Again, all my links will be there, as well as a contact form if you have any questions. Thank you, and I hope you enjoy this episode. Hello, and welcome back to 3D Printing Basics. This is episode number 63, and in this episode, we are going to be doing a deep dive into the 3D printing company Prusa Research. I'm going to go through the timeline from when they were founded up until today, going over some significant events and how they became the 3D printing giant that we know them as today. With that being said, let's get right into it. Prusa Research was founded in 2012 by Joseph Prusa, and before he actually founded the company, he was just a college student in 2009, and he was actually doing DJ sets and wanted to know if 3D printing was a viable option for upgrading his DJ set. And he decided that it was, and so he started looking around for a 3D printer and found that there wasn't really a good one on the market, so he actually decided to make his own. And that led to him creating what's called the Prusa Mendel, which is the backbone of Prusa's iconic 3D printers. It's the very first one that he ever made. It included the heated bed, which hadn't really been seen before on 3D printers in general, especially not on the widespread kind of manufactured ones that were for the public. And he was the first one to kind of introduce that. And the Mendel, as he says, the goal was to be easy to assemble and upgrade, and he definitely wanted to keep it open source. One of Prusa's main values, even though they've gotten away from it a little bit today, but their main values for one of the longest times was to keep everything that they made open source. They wanted it to be for the community. They wanted the community to be able to make upgrades to it, to be able to tweak anything, to be able to test things out, and to be able to provide solid feedback that Prusa could use for their next models or their upgraded models. And that's something that I can really respect from a company, especially as large as Prusa Research, wanting to maintain their open source ability for their 3D printers. That's really a positive for the community, and it's really nice to see a company that is so large starting out with that idea and maintaining that idea for such a long time. This episode is brought to you by PCBWay. Ready to take your electronics projects to the next level? PCBWay offers everything you need, from custom PCBs to 3D printing and even CNC machining, all under one roof. They're trusted by engineers and makers worldwide for their exceptional quality and fast turnaround. And here's a special deal for listeners of 3D Printing Basics. Use the promo code 3DPrinting2, SQUARED, to get $10 off your first order. Start your next project with PCBWay and see the difference for yourself. Head over to PCBWay.com today. This printer led to some pretty significant popularity on sites like GitHub and the kind of niche 3D printer sites, and this led him to establishing Prusa Research, which he established as a one-man startup, and its goal was to create the best 3D printers available on the market. And so that was founded in 2012, and in 2013 he released his third version of the Prusa Mendel, and this took the kind of iconic shape that we see today. The first two versions were a little bit more just basic, but this Mendel i3, it really took the shape that we're used to seeing from Prusa 3D printers with that kind of metal frame and then the two Z rods. It just really took their shape. And then they also established their print farm, which they used to make parts for their 3D printers. And this is one of my favorite things about Prusa Research is the print farm that they use. They use their own 3D printers to print parts that make their 3D printers. And that's just something that I love to see. For one, it lets you test your printers in a very tough setting, having them print over and over and over. If you wanted to test new printers, you could just throw them in there. And then the fact that they're using 3D printing to make 3D printers is just something that I love to see. I feel like us as 3D printers know that 3D printing in a manufacturing setting can be used in an industrial standard, and they're proving it right there with now their print farm is up to over 500 or 1,000 printers or something crazy like that. But in 2013, they established it, and they used it to make parts for the 3D printers, and they continue to do that even today. In 2015, they released their original i3, which is the iconic line of printers that we know today. Nowadays, they're up to the i3 MK4, which is what we know, which is their latest release, which we will talk about later. But they released their original i3, and it was pretty popular. It was very well received, and this led to them further developing it and releasing what they called the i3 MK3 in 2017. And this was the first. This is kind of version 1 that they had of the line that we love to see today, and it was taken very well. It was the first system to be designed with multiple colors, because along with it they released the MMU, which is the multi-material system. It basically laid the groundwork for the AMS. I remember seeing this when I first got into 3D printing, and I thought it was amazing. It enabled your printer with one print head to be able to print with up to 4 colors at one time. And so that, in combination with the first MK3, that's really when they kind of started picking up popularity and started really exploding as a 3D printing company. They also released their first slicer, which was a version of slicer with the 3 in the name. I have no idea how you actually pronounce it, but it was basically just an offshoot of that. And this, after being further developed and much more updates, became Prusa Slicer, which, as we know, is probably nowadays the second best slicer in the game today. So that's definitely very important. 2017 was a big year for Prusa, and I think that's kind of when they started upping their popularity. They started becoming more well-known to the public, and they started selling more and more printers. In 2018, they announced their SLA printer, the Prusa SL1, which expanded their market reach because up until this point, they had only done FDM 3D printers, and while they aren't as well-known for their SLA printers, it still has the same reputation for quality and reliability that all their other 3D printers have. And just expanding their market reach, it's always a good idea for any 3D printing company. They also released their own filament brand, Prusament. If you guys don't know, Prusament is Prusa's filament brand, and they're known for super high quality and very reliable filament. Although it's a little bit more on the expensive side, it is incredibly good. I've used a couple rolls of Prusament myself, and I love it. I've had no problems with it. It's super high quality. It prints super, super well. And if it wasn't so expensive, it would probably be my main filament choice. It's that good. But they manufacture everything in-house, which is another thing that I love with Prusa, is they have their own factory where they produce their own 3D printers, their own filament. They produce everything under the same roof and ship it all out of the same place, which is just what I love to see. No outsourcing, nothing like that. It's all made in-house. In 2019, they took another big step by launching Printables, which is basically Thingiverse, but it's better and more engaging. They have more models on there, and they also have contests on there every week to see who designs the best themed whatever. I've seen coasters, I've seen holiday-themed events, but it's really cool that they have contests every week. It's really engaging to the audience, and really it invites healthy competition and more innovation, which is, something that's really awesome. They also announced the Prusa Mini, which is obviously the mini version of their printer. It's a much more affordable and reliable option for those of us who can't afford the higher end 3D printers. It's still very good. It's a small little guy for sure, but he's very mighty. I have one myself, and I really like using it, especially for things like TPU. In 2020, they helped fight COVID when it shut down the world. They actually manufactured their own face shields and gave them out to the medical field from people who needed them. So that was just something that was really nice to see a company like Prusa, who is a for-profit company and needs to make money, willingly sacrifice the printing side of the business to help manufacture face shields to help protect people who were fighting on the front lines of this very serious pandemic. So that was something that I really liked seeing from them in 2020. I remember seeing that in 2020 and being very grateful that such a large company was willing to make such a huge sacrifice for the sake of the greater good. They also announced Prusa resin for their SLA printers, which again has the same reputation of Prusa as a whole as being very high quality and very reliable. In 2021, they released their Prusa Pro AFS, which is their automated print farm. So basically, they made and manufactured a 34 printer print farm made of their Core XY Prusa printers. I believe it was made of Core XY printers before they even announced it or release it to the public. But it's basically just a whole unit that they sell to industries, to big companies, and it's just basically a easy to set up print farm. Rather than having to buy each printer separately, set it up yourself, get anything like that, you can just get this whole thing as itself and it comes ready to go. And it's really interesting and it's really cool. I really love the look of it, and it's definitely something to consider if you're a company that wants to switch to large scale manufacturing yourself by using 3D printing. It's definitely an interesting option for sure. In 2021, they also announced the Prusa XL, which was the largest form 3D printer I think that we had seen at that point in time. It was very large. I don't know the exact dimensions. I don't have one myself, although I do really want one. But it wasn't going to be released for a while. It actually wasn't released until 2023. They definitely had some issues with manufacturing, but overall, I would say it was worth the wait because it was a very good 3D printer. And they also committed to sustainability with announcing of their Prusament recycled filament. And this filament is made of 100% recycled Prusament, whether they get it from other people or whether it's just they use in-house, whether they use failed prints or something like that. But 2021 is definitely when they started making a switch to really focus on the sustainability aspect of the business. They started making sustainability reports. They started the Prusament recycled filament, and they started just focusing on being more environmentally friendly, which is another reason I love Prusa Research. We're going to skip ahead to 2023, where they announced their MK4 as a direct response to Bamboo Labs. And I know I've mentioned it on episodes before. I actually saw it and bought one immediately. And while the MK4 wasn't everything it was cracked up to be at that point in time, they still had to come out with the vibration detector and the accelerator and all the things like that. It still resembled the high quality and very good reputation that Prusa holds up, and I've heard good things from their reworked Prusa MK4 now that it has all the features that they were talking about. I do think that they rushed it out a little bit because they wanted to respond to Bamboo Labs as quick as possible. It was around this time in 2023 that they were taking over with their announcement of the P1P and how fast everything worked and how great everything was. So I definitely think that they rushed into making it a little bit faster than they maybe should have. But I've definitely heard good things from the reworked, from people who own it and the reworked. And if you guys know Joel at the 3D Printing Nerd, he has a print farm full of them. So if he has them, I feel like they're going to be pretty good to be using in your everyday life. They also updated their Prusa slicer with one of the most significant updates that I've seen in recent times. They announced the organic tree supports, which really changed the support game. Before this, I remember when I was 3D printing, you could really only use the quote-unquote normal supports, which were kind of weird to work with. They did the job, but the tree supports really changed the game. They made it so much easier to remove these supports. They made it a lot easier. You used less material. They popped off easy, and they were just overall a lot better than the normal supports. And since tree supports have been announced, I can only recall a few times, maybe 2% of the time, where I choose normal supports over tree supports. It was also this time in 2023 they started shipping the Prusa XL, which, as I know from reviews I've seen, it's a very popular printer. It's very large, and up to 5 different tool heads means you can print with 5 different materials, colors, whatever you want. And in 2024, they started shipping their reworked MK4 and also announced the Prusa Core 1, their first Core XY 3D printer. And I like that they waited until 2024 for this. It seemed like they learned their lesson from the original MK4 announcement and tried to really dial in this printer and have it ready to go before the announcement. And I've heard nothing but good things about the Core XY printer, their very first one, and I'm definitely looking into getting one myself. And we're going to finish out here in 2025 where they introduced their mobile app. And this mobile app lets you slice and print files directly from your phone to any Prusa printer that has Wi-Fi enabled on it. And it is indeed just a response to the Bamboo Handy app. But overall, I do love that this healthy competition is making 3D printing easier and more accessible to everybody. And overall, that's kind of the timeline of Prusa Research. Overall, Prusa is a company that is well known and has a great reputation for solid, reliable, high quality 3D printers. You really can't go wrong if you purchase a 3D printer from Prusa Research. You know you're going to be getting a solid printer that's very reliable. It's going to do exactly what it's advertised to do. And that's pretty much all we can ask for. I feel like there's nothing worse in the 3D printing world than getting an overhyped 3D printer that doesn't deliver on its promises, but that will not happen with Prusa Research. When you buy a printer from them, you know exactly what you're getting, and that's exactly what you're getting. You're getting exactly that. There's nothing that you will be under-delivered on. It's a very solid company that makes very solid 3D printers and 3D printing filament, and that's why they are one of my favorite 3D printing companies today. But with that being said, that's all I have for you guys today. I hope you enjoyed this deep dive into Prusa Research. Let me know if you wanted to see me cover some more companies and what particular companies you would like to see me cover. Thank you guys so much for listening. I appreciate all the support, and I'll talk to you next time.